Have you heard about the Series Limited Liability Company? You're wondering, hey, is this the right entity for me? Should I set one up? Will it protect me? Well, in this video, I'm going to be breaking that down for you, showing you how to set up a Series LLC, when you should set up a Series LLC, and when you should not use that type of structure. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what is a Series Limited Liability Company? Well, a Series LLC is a structure where it's basically a limited liability company that you set up in a state that specifically recognizes your ability to form this type of company. Now, it's typically done via check the box on the LLC's articles of organization. They'll have a little box on there that will indicate whether or not you want to make this a Series LLC. Some states may have an actual separate articles of organization that you'll use, but the fact of the matter is that with the Series LLC, what you're doing is you're creating a very specific type of entity, an entity that is an LLC with the added benefit of being able to create what we refer to sometimes as cells, or what they're technically referred to, separate series. So I'm just going to call them cells. Now, when you're forming this, why would someone want to set up a Series LLC? Why should you even consider it? Well, the benefit of using a Series LLC that makes it so attractive is that when you're thinking about asset protection and you're making offers on properties and you do not have structures set up ahead of time to make the offer in, and then the money goes hard and you set it up with maybe a 20-day close because you're in competition with other individuals. It can be problematic trying to get a new LLC set up in time to close in that LLC because the state, may drag their feet, may take them 2 weeks to file the entity. So one benefit of using a Series LLC is that these cells right here can be created relatively quickly. And what do I mean by relatively quickly? In about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, you can have a new cell set up. Because when you're using a Series LLC, what you're doing is you're forming this entity with the state. And this entity is what gives you your asset protection and all of your benefits. And what these cells are is they're little extensions of this main agreement. And essentially what you're doing is you're dragging in all the provisions from this LLC into these cells. And the cells get created in the office. So I'll sit down, and if a client reached out to me actually a few weeks back, told me he was closing the following week on a piece of property and he needed a new cell for his closing. So what I did is I drafted up a cell agreement. And so when we drafted up the cell agreement, we referenced the parent LLC, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a moment on how to do this. So we referenced the parent in the cell agreement and said, hey, we wanted to create a new cell that's independent from the parent and the other cells, and it's a standalone entity. And if basically anything goes wrong, that's the entity you sue. So we created this cell. Now, what's unique about creating the cell is that unlike a limited liability company that we set up to begin with, this parent series company, we didn't have to file it anywhere. Now, I just want to put a little asterisk on that when I said we didn't have to file it anywhere. Well, in the state where we were using this structure, because as I stated earlier, not all states recognize the series, so you can't use it in all states. You can only use it in a state that recognizes it. Now, in the states that recognize the Series LLC, many of those states have different filing requirements, meaning that in order to establish a cell, you may need to register it with the Secretary of State. So, for example, Illinois, Wyoming, the cells have to be filed with the Secretary of State. Otherwise, they're not recognized and you would not have the asset protection you're seeking. Texas, you have to file a DBA when you create a cell. Oklahoma, you don't have to do anything. And that's where we were doing this plan. We're setting up this cell. So what I did is I drafted a new cell agreement, sent it out to him, he signed it, and then he closed in the name of that cell. So the cell was on title to the property. So that's how this deal got structured. So we didn't have to file an LLC anywhere, did not have to file a cell. So it was really simple. When he contacted me a week later, he goes, hey, I got another closing coming up. You want another cell? He goes, yeah, I need another one. So I just turned around, drafted him another one, and sent it out to him. So the Series LLC offers you this type of flexibility. If you're setting up a lot of structures, you're going to be needing several cells or entities set up to protect your assets. If you're flipping real estate, hey, it's great. So I like the Series LLC. So this is important. When is it appropriate to use this structure? So I like to use this structure, number one, for residential real estate. Okay. Real estate that you own, either you're flipping it or you're holding it long term. I think this thing works really well for that type of planning, because you're not moving the properties around. That is, you own the property maybe in your own name, and then you transfer it into the cell, or you close in the name of the cell, and it's just going to sit there, and you're going to start collecting rents off of it. So I like it from that standpoint. Number two, I like it to hold maybe a personal property or syndication interests, like for example. So I would use it for personal property, land trust interests. Okay, that's where I use this a lot as well, to hold the beneficial interest in a land trust. Okay, where you should not use this structure, okay, not businesses. If you're running an active business, do not use this type of structure, or commercial property. All right, non-residential property. Now, why do I say that? Because this type of form makes it problematic when you're trying to run a business out of a cell for third parties and banks to establish bank accounts in the name of that cell, so you can even get a merchant account set up. It becomes problematic because the entity is not filed anywhere. Now, those states that have required you to file, for example, Illinois, you can make a special filing in Texas for a certain type of Series LLC that you can set up there, because they have different forms of Series LLCs, or Wyoming. Then it's possible. So if you're working in that state and you're doing business in that state, then you may want to consider it. But for most situations, it's not the best structure, because you cannot provide a third party the right type of form that they're looking for in order to transact business with you. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to borrow money or trying to set up an account, a merchant account, they want to make sure that is the third party, that if something goes wrong, they have access to, garnish that account, foreclose on that asset. And with cells, if they're not recorded, it makes it an issue for them that there could be a cloud on title, or they don't know where to go to get the asset. So you're going to run into issues. That's why keep it in the real estate realm or holding personal property. I think you're going to be better off. But I did mention about, managing the assets and bank accounts. So that's why whenever you're creating a Series LLC, what you'll typically want to do is structure it like this. Let's say it's for rental property. I'll set up a series here, and I'll create all of my cells to hold my property. And if you're wondering, hey, if I had property in Texas and Oklahoma, would it be one Series LLC or two? I like to create a new Series LLC in every state. I don't like to take a Series LLC, say a Texas Series, and foreign file it in a different state, because they may have different requirements in that state that do not comport with Texas filing requirements, and it becomes problematic. So I like to keep things clean. And the way I structure it is that typically all the cells are owned by this parent LLC right here. Now, for banking purposes and for managing the rental property, the investments, I will set up top here a management entity, management LLC or corporation. And so all the funds are flowing through here. So the tenants are paying the management entity, then the management entity is moving the money down to this structure right here. So that's generally speaking how we create the Series LLC, and we go about forming it. To set all this up. Now, as I stated earlier, when you're setting this up, this is something you want to do. Just make sure that when you're filing your articles, first make sure whether or not that entity is acceptable in the state where you want to set this up in. If it's not recognized, do not attempt to use it. The second thing you want to look at when setting this entity up is whether or not, so let me just put recognize. The second thing here is, does it provide asset protection? So if I'm setting it up for investment real estate, there are some states, Minnesota, that recognizes the Series LLC structure, but it doesn't give independent asset protection for the cells. I mean, the whole point in setting up this structure is so I do not have to create a structure like this where I have separate LLCs that are filed. Because if I have a property in here and something goes wrong here, then I don't want these assets impacted by that. But if the state recognizes a series LLC and does not have a clear statute that the cells are protected, then I would avoid setting it up in that state. So you want to make sure it provides asset protection. Number three, you want to make sure that you're aware of what the filing requirements are for the cells. Okay, so do you have to record the cell with the Secretary of State, or do you have to get a DBA in order for it to have valid legal existence? This is really important that you're aware of this, because you could set up cells and you could transfer real estate into them, and then something goes wrong only to find out you don't have any protection because you didn't follow the state procedure. Okay, so so we'll call that state requirements. Know the state requirements for cells. And then the last thing, number four, you need a Series LLC operating agreement. Now, we set up a lot of Series LLCs. And if you look in the show notes, you'll see we have a link in there. We'll pop up a link here. You can then set up a strategy session with us, and we'll walk you through setting up the Series LLC. But that operating agreement is critical. A Series LLC will not provide you any protection without having that Series LLC operating agreement. Because when I showed you earlier, those cells right here, they draw upon this agreement. It is this agreement right here that gives these guys their protection. Without this, you don't have this right here. So that's extremely important when you're setting up that Series LLC, that you actually put together a well-drafted Series LLC operating agreement. Now, the last thing about the Series LLC that I want to impress upon you is how you transfer assets into the series. So, for example, if I've set up a Series LLC, that I just showed you here, we got the Series LLC that we've created, and now we have some cells. The parent LLC, let's call this one Rascal Renter, okay, Series LLC. So many times you need to identify the LLC when you file it, that it is a Series LLC. Now, not all states require this, but a lot do. And I just like it as a matter of preference to always let people know that this is a Series limited liability company. So there isn't any confusion that if I've set this structure up and something goes wrong here with this property, that they're not suing the parent company and the other cells and trying to drag them all in because, oh, I thought it was an LLC. I didn't know it was a Series LLC. You didn't identify that. Just to avoid that argument, let's take it off the table, put Series in the name. So this would be the name of the parent. Now, when it comes to the cells, since the cells aren't recorded anywhere, you get to make up anything you want. Generally speaking, what we'll do is we'll name them after the property. We'll pull something from the property address into the name. So this is where it can get a little confusing for people, because you need to incorporate both names into the cell name. And so when I set up my first cell, let's say it's set up to hold property on 1645 Bayview Court. So when I set up this 1645 Bayview Court, the way you're going to take title and the way it's going to be recognized is you'll pull in the parent's name. So we'll say Rascal Rental Series LLC dash 1645 Bayview Court Protected Series. Okay, boom, just like that. Now I threw something else in there, didn't I? I threw in the words protected series. So again, this is piling on. So when I had a piece of property here that I want to put into this cell up here, when I deed that property into that cell, I'll deed it from Frank to Rascal Renters Series LLC 1645 Bayview Court Protected Series. So that's what's going to be on title. I know that's a lot of words there, but if you're going to use this type of structure, right, you do not want to cut corners at all, because these cells, right, it's a newer type of structure. You want to make sure that you're checking all the boxes and doing everything possible to make sure that anybody that's bringing a claim against that cell is put on notice that this is a Series LLC and you're dealing with a cell, and you do not get the opportunity then to argue you didn't realize it and you want to go after the parent. So that's critical. The naming of the cells is an area in which a lot of people screw up with their Series LLCs. And that's, again, why I would encourage you, reach out to us. We can help you get this structured set up the right way. So if you want to use it, it makes it very easy to go out and invest and create entities as you need them. You just have to do it the right way to make sure you have the protection. Guys, if you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button. Something else, if you want to learn more about how to use the Series LLC from an asset protection and tax planning standpoint when it comes to investing in real estate, I'd like to invite you to join Anderson at our one-day tax and asset protection workshop. We teach these events on Saturdays and during the week, and it's a full one-day course where we delve deep into asset protection and tax planning. We break things down for you, showing you how to protect your real estate, how to protect your business interests, how to maximize the tax savings that comes from running a business or owning real estate. Guarantee you that you will leave that event in a better place than when you started based upon the information you received there. Not to mention, I bring a team with me, or whoever's speaking, we bring a team of CPAs and attorneys that are there to answer your questions. Generally speaking, we answer nearly 1,200 to 1,600 questions an event, because the one thing I've learned about business planning and asset protection and real estate investing, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So we're going to make sure that we personalize it to you on the event by giving you the ability to get your questions answered. Hey, if you can make it to that event, it's well worth your time. There's a link in the show notes below. Click on the link. You can register. It's absolutely free. And I can guarantee you it's going to be a life-changing event from an asset protection and tax planning standpoint. All right, guys, take care. And I wish you the very best with your real estate investing.